Kari Lake continues. We understand she's now bringing legal challenges to decertify the election, whatever that means, and is trying to keep herself relevant. Well, here's her most recent claims, statements, accusations that are so embarrassing to her, guys. I'm getting a little bit, if she wasn't pushing for some fascistic takeover of the government and completely breaking down democratic process, I would almost feel sad for her, because this seems like such a manifestation of her deep sorrow about losing. And she just can't accept it, like we saw with Trump. And it's pitiful. But this is what has now occurred, because she would rather lie to herself and lie to her audience than just accept the election results like everyone else does, Kari. But here's the first recent statement.
Serious problems with the way our elections are run. Let me just read from some affidavits of people who were taking part in election day voting, which was
This is priceless. Just get ready for what you're about to hear. She's telling a specific story, an anecdote from someone who is documenting their voter suppression. But listen closely to the specifics.
Massive number of Republicans and independents who showed up. This man says at 7 o'clock, a marshal announced that voting time was over to the line outside of the building, with over 100 voters still standing in line. 4 or 5 voters arrived immediately thereafter and were very upset. One voter came to the side door to speak to a supervisor. He was shouting that he's being disenfranchised, that he's voted for 20 years without a problem.
So, oh my gosh, she said, this is so humiliating. She said, look at this. Someone showed up to the polls after the polls had closed, and they were mad that they couldn't vote. Now, to be clear, the people in line were still allowed to vote. That happens every single time. If you ever showed up really late to an election, they'll close the polls and say everyone who's in line now will get to come vote, but no new people can join the line. And so someone came after that and wanted to join the line, and they said no because the polls had closed. That's the story of voter suppression. How about you show up before 7 p.m., sir, and then you won't be so brutally having your rights violated or whatever you think. And then he ends up having to get ushered out because he's screaming at the officials and all that, is what she continues to say. Then look at this analogy that she says that is just so off about the election.
We have to work to restore honesty to our elections. It's one of the top issues facing our country right now. And I just want the people out there to know, if you're watching or listening to the show today and you're feeling disheartened and wondering where our country's going, I know it's easy to throw up your hands and say, I'm done. I can't do the fight anymore. God did not place us here because we're weak. God did not put us in this game. Imagine we're in the Super Bowl and we're in overtime. You don't walk off the field in overtime. I know it's not easy. I know the difficulties that we have to work on to improve here in our country.
So let me give her a more accurate analogy, because she does seem confused. So what we're working with is, she believes that she is equivalent to a football team in overtime. We can't give up. The accurate analogy is, you played the Super Bowl, you lost, and for some reason, no one knows why, everyone's left the stadium, you and your team are just on the field screaming about the game still going on. We don't know why you keep running the ball around. It's over, dude. That's what really is happening with Kari Lake in Arizona. And last moment that I want to show you here from her. Oh my goodness, take a look.
What happened to you in our elections? That's a travesty. What happened in Georgia yesterday?
So someone's calling into this show she's doing and asking a good question. He's wrong about the beginning, saying it's a travesty what happened in Arizona. But then he goes, it's even more of a travesty that people, because of what they believe about Arizona, didn't go out to vote in Georgia, is the statement he's making. And she doesn't like that.
I believe is far worse. Because the Republicans, people of Georgia, did not show up to vote. They didn't do it. There wasn't voter suppression, blah, blah, blah. They didn't show up to vote. I know you're fiercely doing show prep. Did you happen to listen to the first hour of the Charlie Kirk show?
I missed it. You can hardly blame them, though, when they watch one election after the next be destroyed by shenanigans. Why would they have faith to show up?
All that.
This is
I
the
get all
problem.
So this is going to be the most epic and brutal shooting yourself in the foot moment for the Republican Party, where they allowed, bolstered, supported the Trumps of the world, Trump specifically, and then people, his offspring, will say, not literally, but politically, and also his literal offspring as well. But they allowed that to become so prominent in their party. The Republican Party did. And they thought, well, I mean, Trump won for us, so we'll get behind him, whatever. And now the chickens are coming home to roost because Kari Lake is getting asked by that caller, wait, Republicans don't believe in our election processes because of, I guess he genuinely believes that something wrong happened in Arizona, but regardless, because of statements you're making and people like you are making, and we understand them to be lies about the election in Arizona. How do we fight back against that? Because no one's going to go out to vote if every single election just gets stolen magically by the Democrats. And her answer is, I don't blame them for not wanting to vote if it's all getting stolen, which is the worst thing for the Republican Party in these races. Because if you get more and more people believing it's all going to be stolen anyways, they won't go out to vote, and your elections won't go the way that you would like them to, because like we saw with Trump and his effect on the 2020 runoff election in Georgia, and what we're seeing now with this new brand of MAGA people, it hurts them and they're shooting themselves in the foot, and it's wild to watch.